Number one.
Number one also.
Number one also. You don't know.
When people think about footballers with millions in the bank, they usually imagine supercars, designer clothes, mansions, private jets, and a life built to be seen. N'Golo Kanté is almost the complete opposite. He became a Premier League champion, Champions League winner, and World Cup winner. Yet one of the things fans remember most is that he kept driving a Mini Cooper and looked uncomfortable whenever the spotlight turned toward him. At the 2018 World Cup celebration, his teammates even had to make sure he got his turn with the trophy because he was too shy to push forward and take it. That personality makes his rise even more unusual. Years before Chelsea, the trophies and the millions, Kanté was growing up in the suburbs of Paris, helping his family and collecting recyclable waste. During the summer of 1998, while France celebrated a World Cup on home soil, young Kanté was outside stadiums picking up bottles and discarded trash. 20 years later, he was the one lifting the trophy. And once the money arrived, his life became just as interesting as his football. The net worth, the house, the cars, the private life, the faith, and the way he spends his wealth all tell the same story. Kanté became one of football's biggest stars without ever looking like he wanted to live like one. So this is the full profile of N'Golo Kanté, from the boy nobody wanted to one of the richest and most respected midfielders of his generation. N'Golo Kanté was born on March 29, 1991 in Rueil-Malmaison, a working-class suburb west of Paris. His parents had moved from Mali to France looking for better opportunities. His father worked as a refuse collector, his mother as a cleaner, and they raised a large family where money had to stretch, and everybody learned early that nothing came without work. Kanté was the eldest, and after his father died when he was still young, life became even harder. His mother carried most of the family responsibility, while Kanté helped where he could. One of the stories attached to his childhood is that he collected recyclable waste and took it to small recycling businesses for cash. That is what makes the image of the 1998 World Cup so powerful. France was celebrating. The stadiums were packed, and Kanté was outside collecting what supporters left behind. He could not have known that the same tournament would eventually become part of his own story. But before that happened, he first had to convince football that he belonged at all. Kanté was not the kind of academy prospect who made scouts stop immediately. He was small, quiet, and not particularly flashy. Big clubs kept overlooking him, so he spent years with JS Suresnes in the lower levels of French football, far away from the stadiums and television cameras that would later become normal. He was realistic enough to prepare for another life too, earning a vocational accounting diploma because football was never guaranteed. Eventually, he joined Boulogne, then Caen, slowly climbing one level at a time. There was no giant teenage transfer, no viral hype, and no superstar treatment. Then Leicester City paid around €8 million for him in 2015. At the time, it looked like a useful signing for a modest Premier League club. Nobody knew that one season later, Kanté would be at the centre of one of the greatest shocks English football had ever seen. Leicester entered the 2015-16 season as 5,000-to-1 outsiders to win the Premier League. Survival was the realistic target. Instead, they became champions. Jamie Vardy scored the goals, Riyad Mahrez produced the magic, and Kanté seemed to be everywhere at once, winning loose balls, breaking up attacks, and covering impossible amounts of ground. That season produced the famous joke that 70% of the earth is covered by water and the rest by N'Golo Kanté. It sounded ridiculous until you watched him play. The same player academies had considered too small suddenly looked perfectly built for the fastest league in the world. By the end of the season, Kanté was no longer invisible. Chelsea paid around £32 million for him, and he immediately proved Leicester had not been a one-season accident. At Chelsea, Kanté won the Premier League again in his first season, giving him back-to-back league titles with two different clubs. Then came the FA Cup, Europa League, and eventually the Champions League. The quiet midfielder from the lower leagues had become one of the most decorated players in Europe. But the defining image came with France in 2018. Kanté had once watched a World Cup from the outside. Now he was starting in midfield for the team that won it. And even after reaching the biggest stage in football, he still acted like the same shy person. During celebrations, teammates had to make sure he got his moment with the trophy because he was happy standing in the background. That contrast became part of his image. Ruthless on the pitch, almost uncomfortable with attention off it. But football eventually gave him a much colder moment too. France brought Kanté back for the 2026 World Cup at 35 years old. For supporters, it looked like the perfect final chapter. One last tournament for a midfielder who had already helped win the trophy 8 years earlier. He joined the squad, trained with the team, and waited for his chance. But that chance never came. 8 matches, 0 appearances. No sentimental 5 minutes, no farewell ovation, and no final moment for the crowd to say goodbye. Even when France struggled in midfield against Spain, Kanté stayed on the bench. Fans questioned the decision, but Kanté responded in the most Kanté way possible. No public war, no dramatic complaints, no attempt to make the tournament about himself. The disappointment was real, but he carried it quietly. And that same quietness is what makes his financial life so surprising, because behind the modest image is an enormous fortune. Kanté's net worth has been estimated at around $60 to $70 million, with career salary across Leicester, Chelsea and Al Ittihad estimated at roughly $200 million. At Al Ittihad alone, reports placed his salary at around 25 million euros per year. Add endorsement relationships such as Nike and EA Sports, plus property interests in England and France, and this is clearly not a man living an ordinary financial life. What makes it interesting is how little of that wealth became part of his public personality. He never built his image around chains, watches, or showing fans what he could afford. Instead, one of the strongest money stories connected to him is that he reportedly funded a $5 million hospital in Bamako, Mali, linking his success back to the country his parents came from. So, with Kanté, the number itself is only half the story. The contrast is what gives the money section its appeal, because he reached the same financial world as footballers known for giant watch collections, exotic cars, and constant luxury posts. But he never sold himself that way. Even when the salaries became enormous, the public image stayed almost stubbornly simple. That makes every glimpse of his wealth feel more surprising, because it sits behind a personality that rarely advertises it. The real curiosity now lies in what a man worth tens of millions actually chooses to live in, drive, and keep private. Kanté was linked with a home worth around £3.5 million in Cobham, Surrey. For almost anybody else, that is obvious luxury. But in the world of Premier League stars buying enormous estates, the property fits his image: expensive, comfortable, and private, without becoming part of a constant show. There are no famous house tours attached to Kanté, no endless social posts walking people through marble rooms and giant closets. The attraction is almost the opposite. His home life feels hidden. Privacy, security, recovery space, and somewhere to disappear when football stops seem more important than turning the property into content. After his move to Fenerbahçe, he was reported to have chosen a normal 3-bedroom style apartment in Istanbul rather than an outrageous penthouse. That choice stands out because football wealth usually becomes more visible as a player's career grows. Bigger contract, bigger house, bigger statement. Kanté seems to reverse that logic. The better his career became, the less interested he appeared in proving anything through where he lived. Whether in England or Turkey, the pattern is the same. He can afford dramatic luxury, but the luxury he seems to value most is peace, privacy, and a place where the outside world cannot follow him. Then there are the cars. And this is where Kanté's lifestyle becomes famous. When he arrived in England, he bought a Mini Cooper worth around £15,000. For a Premier League player, that was almost comically ordinary. His teammates noticed, fans noticed, and the Mini slowly became a symbol of the man himself. He kept driving it after Leicester, after moving to Chelsea, and even after becoming a World Cup winner. When the car was damaged in a collision in London, he still did not suddenly replace it with a Ferrari or Lamborghini. That is why people remember it. The Mini was not impressive because of its price. It was impressive because of what he could have bought instead. Over time, his garage did become more luxurious, and he has also been linked with a Mercedes GLE. That is a major upgrade in comfort and price, but still very Kanté. A premium SUV that is practical, discreet, and easy to use every day, rather than a screaming supercar. Even the progression from Mini Cooper to Mercedes tells a neat story. His lifestyle did upgrade. He did not pretend success changed nothing. He simply upgraded without turning the upgrade into a performance. There is a big difference between enjoying money and needing everybody to know you are enjoying it, and Kanté's garage sits right in that gap. Some footballers use their cars to announce how far they have come. Kanté's cars seem to remind people how little his personality changed after he got there. There is another story that explains Kanté better than almost any mansion or car ever could. In September 2018, after Chelsea beat Cardiff, Kanté missed his Eurostar train to Paris. Instead of booking some extravagant hotel or disappearing behind security, he went to a mosque near King's Cross, where an Arsenal fan named Badlour Rahman Jalil recognized him and invited him home for dinner. Kanté actually went. They ate chicken curry because Kanté was on a protein diet, drank tea, played FIFA, and watched Match of the Day together. Imagine being one of the most famous midfielders in the world, only weeks removed from winning the World Cup, and spending your evening in a supporter's living room like an old family friend. That story went viral because it felt almost impossible in modern football. But with Kanté, it somehow made perfect sense. The millions gave him access to a completely different world, yet ordinary moments still seemed completely normal to him. And that tells you a lot about the man behind the footballer. Off the pitch, Kanté is one of the hardest stars to read because he shares so little. He does not make relationships part of his brand, rarely gives the internet access to his home life, and has spent years avoiding the kind of drama that follows many famous players. In March 2025, reports said he personally denied rumors of a secret marriage and then returned to saying almost nothing. His faith is a major part of his life. Kanté is a practicing Muslim, and the discipline, humility, and low-key lifestyle associated with him fit the way he carries himself publicly. Family matters just as much, especially his mother, who helped hold together a large household after the death of his father and watched her eldest son go from helping the family survive to becoming a World Cup winner. That background explains why the luxury never completely became the story. For Kanté, fame seems secondary to the things that existed before it: family, faith, work, and privacy. After leaving Chelsea, Kanté moved to Al Ittihad in Saudi Arabia in 2023 and earned one of the biggest contracts of his career. He later won the Saudi Pro League and King's Cup in 2024-25, showing that even away from Europe, the famous engine had not disappeared. Then, in February 2026, he returned to European football with Fenerbahçe, signing through 2028. That move was interesting because Kanté no longer needed to prove anything financially or historically. He already had the money, the Champions League, the Premier League titles, and the World Cup. Yet he still chose to compete. So the question around his future is simple. How long does he want to keep going? At this stage, every extra season feels less like a chase for status and more like a player who simply does not want to stop playing yet. When you step back and look at Kanté's life, the most interesting thing is not that he became rich. Plenty of footballers become rich. It is that almost every part of his profile points back to the same personality: the Mini Cooper, the private home, the quiet family life, the faith, the charity, and the refusal to fight for attention. He went from collecting recyclable waste in the suburbs of Paris to winning the Premier League with Leicester, doing it again with Chelsea, lifting the Champions League, and eventually lifting the World Cup he once watched from the outside. He earned tens of millions, moved to Saudi Arabia for a massive contract, and still returned to Europe when he could easily have disappeared into retirement. The money clearly changed his circumstances. It gave him property, comfort, security, and access to a world most people will never experience. But it never became his entire personality. The boy who once stood outside a World Cup stadium collecting what other people threw away eventually lifted the trophy himself. If this video moved you, share it with someone who needs to see it today. If you enjoyed it, you already know what to do. See you in the next one.